So we're just going to do a quick video on BONK. It's been requested in the server, and obviously BONK. I don't typically hold meme coins. I never have. I've never had any exposure to BONK, and I'm going to just purely look at this from a technical perspective. Okay. Obviously, thinking about narrative wise, we had meme coin super cycle. BONK obviously enjoyed a lot of those gains from the meme coin super cycle with this large impulsive move that it had. Um, and yeah, typically when you have this kind of move where you have a large impulsive move, as you can see over on the left, into a very distributive like pattern, which people pattern traders might call this a double M top. Usually you then see price begin to mean revert back down again. And I'm not saying that's something that we're on the cusp of doing necessarily, because I am still in the ballpark that we do have quantitative tightening next, well, in the summer. And if quantitative tightening does end, then we'll see a lot of liquidity being injected into risk markets, and I am in that ballpark still. So there could still be some upside left in a lot of these charts. Right. So something probably to note is when looking at any asset from a very large time frame, make sure to put your chart in logarithmic, not linear, because as you can see, it's not very clear when looking at BONK from a linear perspective. But as soon as because we're in the monthly time frame, this only really should be used in a monthly or weekly time frame. Instead, put it into logarithmic, and you can actually see now. It's much better to actually being able to read this. So now taking a look at BONK, we of course have this very distributive like pattern that we've got here, and we can just mark out some levels, right? Okay, just across the chart, and all I've done here is simply mark out we were getting a consecutive monthly down close candles, and this was obviously through the bear market over on the left here. Okay, and you can see that this swing low, right, is, we can call this sell side liquidity or sell stops. Okay, so this is just price action concept, and let's put this to the right. All right, and ultimately, when looking over here, if we wanted to see a reversal, and you can see how quickly this did reverse, ultimately what you want to see is you want to see a raid on this low. Okay, you want to see a raid on this swing low over here, and let's put this on demonstration mode. So you want to see a raid on this swing low, which we did get. Okay, so we got a raid on the swing low, right, just here from this big up close monthly candle. And even if you go to a weekly time frame, okay, you can actually see how, yeah, can you see how we raided the swing low? And we actually raided it twice, and we had two candle body closures from a weekly time frame above that swing low, right? So this over here was a very early indication of a trend reversal, okay? A trend reversal of this downtrend that we had over here, right? So this ultimately was the indication of a reversal. And you can see from that point onwards that it was super impulsive, and it was really hard for anyone to get back into the market at that point, right? And typically when you want to trade the trend, something I always like to do is just mark out key levels. And if you think back to this point in time, so if we take, let's skip forward ahead a little bit. Okay, so ultimately, this impulsive candle high and impulsive candle low would have been our point of interest back at this moment of time. And we can just call this candle range high and candle range low at the moment. But actually, back in this time in October 2023, this would have been previous month high and previous month low, previous week high, previous week low. So ultimately, you can see how impulsive this is. And if we get the close above this candle range high, which would have been previous week high, then that's an indication of the trend is going to continue. Okay, which it did get. Okay, so you got the close there, which is way above the candle range high. So that indicates trend continuation, right? So that's just kind of a bit of an insight into looking at where this impulsive move actually started, and you can see that there was a period of consolidation in BONK, which was obviously over here before this large breakout, right? So keeping all that in mind, we apply similar type of liquidity concepts and key levels to this very distributive light pattern over here. And, we can tell that the two swing highs here, okay, are evidently where buy stops, okay, where buy side liquidity is. So you can imagine during this point in time that when there's peak euphoria, and usually with peak euphoria, a lot of retail like to do what? They like to trade breakouts. So a lot of retail traders and investors, they would have actually went long on this breakout over here, from this candle over here, from the breakout of these two swing highs, okay? Because they would have got FOMO, although that was actually peak euphoria, which was pretty evident because last November 2024, from this big up close candle, was actually peak euphoria for meme coin supercycle AI agents. You've seen a lot of majors begin to pop off, like Cardano, like XRP, like VeChain. And ever since that point, where there was the breakout, we've then started to sell off, right? And if we add the so buy side liquidity, okay, or in other words, buy stops, right? And I'm pretty sure BONK will have obviously futures products, futures derivatives products, but yeah, so a lot of retail traders would have went long on this breakout, and ultimately that where they went long is um, is a buy stop raid, buy side liquidity raid from this up close candle, and this would have trapped a lot of traders, a lot of investors who actually went long on BONK and on the market as a whole, thinking the market was going to actually continue to trend higher, which is obviously not what we got. So they'll be in positions underwater at the moment. Now, if we take this, well, we can take a look, in fact, at the weekly time frame. Okay, let's go back actually to the monthly, because another important aspect that I forgot to mention was an early giveaway that the trend was actually going to reverse here was the candle body closes. Okay, it's typically it's always in the candle body closures and the wicks. Okay, so the wick is usually a liquidity hunt, a stop hunt, right? But then the candle body closures is kind of where the real move occurs, and you can see that the candle body closures close pretty much below both these swing highs, which would have been the previous all-time high for BONK, and we were followed then by a down closed candle, a red candle, that also closed below both both these swing highs by side liquidity, and then continued lower. And at this point in time, you have to think that the draw on liquidity would have actually been this low over here. Okay, so because I'm in monthly time frame, the drawings aren't behaving. Okay, so the draw on liquidity would have actually been this low, but from a monthly time frame, as you can see, we've taken, and you can actually see that we have a. You can actually see that from here to the swing low we mentioned, that this is what we like to call low resistance liquidity. Okay, so this, in this case, this would be low resistance sell side liquidity, because this is what we're hunting, sell stops. Okay, so if we just add a marker saying liquidity run, okay, so we abbreviate it as LRLR, or trend line liquidity. So a lot of people and a lot of retail traders, again, investors, they would have perceived this as what? They would have perceived this likely as support. Okay, so they would have, potentially have drawn support from somewhere like this and said that this is support, right? And you can see this is actually what we're holding at the moment. But if you take the very last wick low over here, which is this swing low, you can actually see that it was actually wicked. We actually wicked below that. So again, this is sell side liquidity, right? You can see we had taken all the sell side liquidity from all these lows over here, which is a low resistance liquidity run. Okay, so if there's ever any time to actually study a lot of these concepts, obviously just go ahead and do that. Low resistance liquidity run, right? Okay, and that's ultimately what we've seen in this chart at the moment. We've then wicked this final low over here, and we're now closing back above what would be perceived as support, right? So, and this is why I am cautiously bullish at the moment on, well, I would say I would perceive BONK and a few other altcoins as cautiously bullish because of the setup that's forming at the moment. And if we take the, again, there's buy side liquidity. So, we've got here buy stops. Okay. And you can see then obviously trend reversal. You can see we began to reverse at that point, right? And we can pretty much imply that this ultimately was where the sell program had started. So let's change this to, okay, so this is where the sell program had started, when the two swing highs here were wicked out, and then this weekly candle high was wicked out. Then we quickly began to reverse, chasing further liquidity on the sell side, being these wick lows over here. Okay, so we took the last wick low, which was over here, which is pretty evident. Okay, we took this wick low over here, right? And we now have a very important candle range at the moment, which is here. Okay, so right at this moment of time, what we're looking at is this candle range low being raided, okay, as well as the sell side liquidity from this low, right? And you can see we had a up close candle and the body closing inside of this down close candle, right? So this is an indication of an early sign of reversal. right? And because we've taken liquidity, and this is similar with Bitcoin at the moment, because we've taken liquidity, this is actually called our buy program, okay? And it's our buy program until it's not. And there's a lot of evidence at the moment, right at this moment, from a technical perspective, when looking at it, that this might actually be a good opportunity to average into positions, because we are still holding what is perceived as support. We have taken considerable amount of sell side liquidity. This is a buy program until it's not, and at the moment we still have formation of trend continuation. So you can see that this up close candle, right, at close, had a really nice close from this up close candle, right, because we had closed all the way up here, right. Of course, we did have a quick reversal from when this high was wicked out and raided, but we hadn't actually taken this candle range high yet, right. So what I would be interested in is this weekly close on BONK, okay, right? Because we're obviously holding support. We're actually finding rejection at the moment from the equilibrium, from that weekly candle range that I mentioned earlier, but we still haven't actually taken this candle range high out. So the weekly candle range high. So yeah, at the moment I would be considerate that this weekly close, okay, has to be bullish, right? It has to be a green weekly close, okay? So if we take previous week high and previous week low in this case, right, you can see again we have raided previous week low, which you can see here. We've raided previous week low, and we have actually got the close. We're looking like we're going to get the close potentially back within the previous week range. So typically then the target would be previous week high, and as we mentioned earlier, it would be this candle range high over here, right? So then looking at the daily time frame, and you can see evidently we had taken previous week low, had a strong move up, right? And we have actually began to trade into this sell side imbalance, buy side inefficiency, so this bearish daily fair value gap at the moment, and we are finding rejection from there. However, this might indicate order flow for a bit of a retracement on this move, which we're seeing at the moment. But knowing that, I wouldn't be too sure that we go then and trade lower into this low. I do think if we begin to trade above this daily imbalance, bearish imbalance, then the target is previous week high. So yeah, I think it's probably a little bit longer than it needed to be, but I kind of have to go through the entire spiel so then people understand the positioning. But if you're looking at this purely from an investor's perspective, or if you've already got a position in BONK, then, and you have to remember, we have had this large sell-off from where the sell program initiated. We've taken considerable amount of liquidity, sell side liquidity, and ran all these lows, and we do have confirmation of a buy program, which we are still in a buy program. So at the moment you have to be cautiously bullish until we take this wick low over here, right? As soon as we take this wick low, then it's pretty evident that BONK will just fall, okay, if we take this wick low. then it will just be trend continuation. But what we're interested in, we're interested in this from a lot of altcoin charts, is we want to see trend begin to reverse by program and begin to target new highs, right? And if you think from a daily time frame perspective, really, ultimately, this pattern that we're seeing at the moment could support reaccumulation because we had taken the high first. We've now taken the sell side, okay, and we're beginning to have potentially an early sign of reversal with this entire move over here, okay, which could take us beyond into new highs. So yeah, ultimately, it's all dependent on losing this low, right? Losing support, because this is evidently support that we are trading within at the moment. And if that is lost, then we obviously begin to seek lower, and this does to become distributive, and we begin to retrace a lot of this impulsive move that we had, right? So I know it looks a bit like a drawing board at the moment, but at the moment, as I said, it's been cautiously bullish or neutral with a lot of the market. There's a clear invalidation point, which is this wick low. We don't want to revisit this. We want to just continue higher now, right? And for all that to be supported, we want to see a strong weekly close this week, okay? So we want to actually close above this previous week low, right? We want to close above this previous week low over here, right? And back in the previous week range, and then target the previous week high. Okay, so that becomes confirmation of this is potentially continuation of the early sign of reversal that we're after. All right, okay, so that was obviously longer than I expected, but I have to take it to historical sort of price action to kind of give you both sides of the coin and exactly to what to look out for. If we do get the close below previous week low, so if we get the candle body closure below previous week low, so down here, then it's likely we do revisit this low. It's the same with Bitcoin, a lot of altcoins as well. So that should become part of your invalidation, because then this is evidently trend continuation lower. All right. So I hope that was helpful and insightful. And yeah, cheers.